Welcome back to the Daily Memphians Memphis Grizzlies podcast. This is your host, Drew Hill, joined this week by very special guest, Keith Parish. Chris Harrington is on vacation. Longtime friend of the pod, Keith. I think I've been on your pod. Chris has been on your pod. You've been on our pod before, so it's a pod road game for you this week. First of all, can you just tell everybody where they can find your work and tell us about your experience in the podcast game here?
Oh, wow. Well, you can find my work. I cover the Grizzlies on my show Grits and Grinds. Has that breakfast theme in the name because I have another show that I started 12 years ago called Fast Break Breakfast, which is sort of an NBA, used to be very comedy podcast, less comedy now, but I still focused on maybe the not mainstream stories of the NBA. So yeah, I've been doing this for 12 years. I started the Grizzlies Specific podcast, the training camp of Ja Morant's rookie year. So it's been uncharted territory, Drew, covering the Grizzlies without Ja Morant on the team for these past couple of weeks.
It is really weird. He did talk in Las Vegas. We can get into that a little bit. But I remember listening to your podcast before I was on the Grizzlies beat because I think I joined because Ja's first year was the bubble, right? And so I joined like later on in his rookie year, the beat covering the Grizzlies. And I was watching Grizzlies games before that. The Grizzlies were the first professional team to exist within the city I was living at the time. And so I kind of made it a point to kind of try to get into it as best I could, not knowing that I was going to be covering that team like a year later or 2 years later. But yeah, no, I've been listening to Grits and Grinds for a long time. Great show. Make sure you're listening to Keith. He breaks down pretty much every single game. You're on there several times a week. So when you're done listening to this, go check out Keith's show. I wanted to bring Keith on this week because I saw him in Las Vegas. He was also out there at Grizzlies Summer League, taking in some Summer League hoops. I think we watched part of an abysmal Knicks Summer League game together. It might have been like Knicks and Nets. I think that was the matchup. Really terrible matchup for the most part. But for people who haven't been out there and haven't been to Las Vegas, and I know you've been going for a while, Keith, what do you like about going out there and just sort of basking in some low-stakes NBA hoops?
I think the coolest thing about it is the access to, or just the proximity to NBA players, ex-NBA players, current NBA players, the guys on the Summer League teams, on the coaching staffs. There's just NBA people everywhere, just around in the arena, and you can sit really close. In previous years when I started going, so I started going the year before I started my podcast. It was sort of an inspiration. Like I went to Summer League. I was like, this is incredible. And I was like, well, maybe I could podcast about it too. And I've been going ever since. Previous years, it got so crowded. Like the last 5 or 6 years, it was so crowded. It was much harder. This year, it felt like the crowds really thinned out again and you could sit really close and watch these stars of tomorrow compete. But also it's just the people watching. It's just looking over and being like, there's Isaiah Thomas. There's Kenny Smith. There's Kawhi Leonard. There's whoever, Benicio Del Toro showed up this year to watch. So it's a very intimate setting relatively to watch a lot of the NBA guys from the past and the present just mingle about.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome in that sense for sure. One of my favorite things about Summer League is like even off the court when you leave Thomas Mack Arena, if you're going to spend your time in a big Las Vegas Strip casino, like you're going to run into just random folks. True story. Blake Ahern, who used to be an assistant coach for the Memphis Grizzlies and was known for being super tight with Ja Morant during that time when he was at his best in Memphis. I just was walking around the Wynn Casino on, I think, Saturday morning, and I ran into Blake, and he had a Bulls polo on, and we had the chance to catch up and talk. And so that finished. And then I want to say like 2 days later, it got reported that Blake Ahern is now an assistant coach for the Bulls. So like I was sitting on a scoop. I didn't even know. Like anybody could have had it. He was walking around the lobby of the Wynn in his Chicago Bulls polo. But you don't, like, that happens everywhere. I remember I was walking through Resorts World where the Grizzlies have stayed in the past, and like ran into Kevin Hart a couple years ago. You just never know who you're going to see out there. And I thought you were right that it thinned out a little bit, but the atmosphere for the first two games, like the Debanza-Peterson matchup and then the Wilson-Boozer matchup, I thought was excellent. I don't know. What did you make of what that was like in the NBA showcase there to start?
Yeah, the atmosphere was great, but it still, for me, didn't touch. Back in the day, there was like a Lonzo Ball versus the Process Sixers where it was packed to the roof. Like it was all the way up. And so it was a great atmosphere for those games. As far as the people watching, I will second that. If you just want to like mosey around either the Wynn or the Aria or Resorts World or Cosmopolitan, you will just see NBA players everywhere. And I started again doing that, like people watching as a fan. Now that I'm quote unquote media, I no longer like tell all of like, so I saw this person play it at the $100 blackjack table, or this rookie on like a two-way who should not be playing at the $100 blackjack table was there. But also in the arena, you can see stuff like, hey, Shams Charania is talking to Kiki Vandeweghe, and then like so-and-so just made a trade. Like there's a lot of that too, where you see the newsbreakers, you see the GMs talking with each other. It's just all out in the open. And if you're an NBA obsessive hardcore fan, it doesn't get any better. You just kind of nerd out. I always tell people it's like Comic-Con for NBA fans. It's just like this big, I don't know, it's like a hangout of both the actual NBA movers and shakers and then all the fans there just observing it.
That's a good analogy, and I could see why someone like you would want to go to Las Vegas because there's so many games. Yeah. I would also say if you only care about the Grizzlies and like that's the only team you're interested in, Salt Lake is like even more so just like the most up close you can get to this team because the crowds just aren't the same, especially when the Grizzlies aren't playing the Jazz. Like if you want to sit right there on the court, you basically can in Salt Lake, and you might get a glimpse at some of these players. So yeah, there's the most access to these guys, in the summer league setting than there is at, any other time of the season. There's a lot of folks that line those tunnels to the locker rooms in hopes that they're going to get to interact with or get somebody to sign something or whatever before the games. But Las Vegas doesn't get any more open than that. The Grizzlies did play some games. We have 3 to talk about since Chris and I last recorded. The first was the Boozer and Caleb Wilson matchup. I thought both players played really well. It was really funny that Caleb Wilson made 7 threes in all of his college career and then shows up to his first summer league game and makes 7 in one game. The last one being ridiculous, a shot that didn't matter to close it to a 1-point win for the Grizzlies. But both players I thought played really well. It was sort of a showcase of whatever small debate there may have been between Boozer and Wilson in the end. I think you got to see the excitement of Caleb Wilson. You got to see the steadiness of Cam Boozer. And I think the Grizzlies left that game with a win, appreciating that Cameron Boozer didn't get sucked into that one-on-one matchup, because those two players are going to get compared to each other for the rest of their careers, whether that's fair or not. They will be. One played at Duke, one was at North Carolina. The proximity in the draft, it makes too much sense. But the Grizzlies were happy with the way that they played in that game. Maybe not so much in some of the other games, but that one I thought was a big plus and a showcase for a lot of the guys on the team. What did you make of that first Boozer versus Wilson matchup in front of a pretty nice crowd there at Thomas and Mack?
I was happy to see Boozer have a relatively high scoring game. I think he finished with 23, but I felt like in Utah it was such a low usage like situation for him. I know he got a lot of assists in those games, but it seemed a little lacking, where it was like, guys, give Cam Boozer the ball. We want Cam Boozer to run the offense. We want things to go through him more. And it seemed like he got more of an opportunity in that Bulls game. And of course he had a couple highlight plays with the strip in the backcourt of Caleb Wilson for the dunk. He had that awesome Dirk Nowitzki step back. So I liked the extra offense we saw from Boozer. He continues shooting the ball well. I thought the game from a team perspective, it actually was really frustrating I don't know. I was getting some pushback in some of the comments on my YouTube videos where I was like, I felt like the Grizzlies played sort of terribly in the second half. I can't remember I think they had 23 fouls in the second half and like
Boozer
4
had
assists.
a lot of them.
Yeah, and it was just like they were playing from ahead and still committed 14 fouls. The Bulls left something like 20 points on the board with missed free throws. I think they missed 15, but a lot of them were those that are shooting one free throw for 2 or 3 points. They missed something like 5 in a row where it could have been 10 points. So the Grizzlies won by 1. They could have easily lost by 20 if the Bulls made their free throws. Yep. So that part of it was strange and frustrating. And I think maybe the theme of the Summer League has been the Grizzlies have a lot of players with NBA experience. They have a lot of players that we anticipate are going to play big roles on the team. And to be in these battles with teams that only have like 1 or 2 rookies that have been maybe not the most encouraging, but at least Boozer brought it in that first game.
Yeah. And I think to go back to your point about the difference between Utah and Vegas, this is sort of the Javon Small Summer League conundrum, right? Because he can play as well as he did against Golden State, where he just carried the team to a win when Boozer wasn't very good, or he can be a little bit of the tunnel vision to the back. Like I thought you've gotten a good mix. You've gotten Javon Small, maybe a little bit too much tunnel vision in Utah, and it resulted in Boozer's numbers going down. Then you had a little bit better, I guess, of a setup from Memphis in that first game against Caleb Wilson where Boozer's points ticked up. And then you had Javon Small kind of going back to that a little bit, it felt like, in that Warriors Summer League game that happened on Wednesday. And, he played really well. So what are you supposed to say to the guy when he's shooting that well and he's getting to the basket and doing sort of whatever he wanted in that game? So to me, I think it is fascinating how much it feels like Javon Small has an impact on what Boozer is able to do in Summer League. I don't know. Do you feel that way?
Well, there's probably something to be said about just the roster makeup of the team, where I still thought the Grizzlies Summer League team would be like really, really good, but it might be lacking in just having like a setup point guard. And maybe we thought Cam Boozer was going to be more of a setup player, but like Javon Small isn't a pass first point guard. And then there's no other really point guard on the team. I mean, Jemai Mashak is sort of playing like backup point. So maybe it's roster construction, and they're playing all these huge lineups. Cedric Coward probably playing the 2 or the 3. Omax is playing the 2 or the 3. You have like double, triple big lineups if you consider Cam Boozer a big. So maybe that's part of it while the offense looks a little rugged or clogged up at times. And yeah, it is hard to say for Javon Small, where in the loss to the Mavericks, he had an abysmal game, no offense, no passing. Yep. And then he went off against the Warriors. The shots finally fell for the team as they made a bunch of 3-pointers against the Warriors. So it's a hard balance. And that's one of those Summer League things you see for every team, where if you don't have like a pass first point guard setup guy, and most teams don't, it can get really difficult. And then you might even credit the Mavericks having Sergio De La Reyna, who got 12 assists against the Grizzlies, leading sort of some no-name Mavericks players to that win over Memphis.
Could have carried Yuki. Into this on the
Sure.
Summer League roster. There's a pass first guy. Nah, I'm just kidding. Just to go back to Boozer to wrap up on him, I think the other thing that has been striking, we knew this would be the case, but it is striking. He's just going to be a lot less noisy than some of these other players that were picked around him. The exciting highlights are going to be the skip pass, when he rolls to the basket and gets a pass from Ty Jerome and he throws a skip pass over the defense to somebody in the corner for 3. It's just not going to be those springy dunks you're seeing from, Caleb Wilson, or the ankle breakers that you're seeing from Darren Peterson. And it's going to be a big contrast from a guy like Ja Morant. I don't know. Are you ready for a more fundamental version of Grizzlies stardom?
I am totally fine with it. I know we just went through the Ja Morant era where it was apparent in his first preseason game that this was hands down going to be the most exciting player in Grizzlies franchise history. Yep. Just the highlights he put together. I am totally comfortable, unrelated to any feelings on the way the Ja thing played out. I'm totally fine with an outlet pass being a highlight. I'm totally fine with a throw it to the hand throwback for Boozer in the mid post, just waiting for the double team. I mean, we've seen where he gets double teamed and he throws it down to Lawson Lovering, who has his man sealed for a layup. When Edey is healthy, and if you try to double team Boozer on those post plays and he's just throwing it to Edey, I think that's going to be a very productive combination, and I'm completely fine with maybe us not being in the SportsCenter top 10 plays list.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely going to be the case. And I think part of the question with Boozer coming in was whether or not he was going to be almost too vanilla, too basic, to where it was going to catch up to him in the NBA. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that he's shown that so far in Summer League. He didn't shoot the ball well. I thought he had that hilarious interview with Dave McMenamin where he asked him if the NBA three-point line is an adjustment, and he just simply said, no, it's not. I think that kind of speaks to the way he feels about his game. Like, he doesn't like to be doubted. There have been some doubts. I think he's put a lot of those to rest early on, even though he didn't play particularly well in the last two games. I think what he's shown to that point shows you the type of player that the Grizzlies are going to get. So overall, I say it's a pass so far from Cam Boozer from what we have seen. The other player that was definitely a headliner coming into Summer League was Cedric Coward, who has had a much more rugged experience so far through Summer League, was disappointed with the way he played in Utah, had a great first half against Chicago, then I thought kind of trailed off after that, and then two more games where he has not been at his best, against Dallas, then against Golden State. I think totals over 3 games so far in Vegas, 13.3 points per game, 6.7 rebounds, and 3 assists. I just kind of expected a little bit more from Cedric Coward in this situation. How about you?
I think it's been a mixed bag from Cedric. I think you see baseline, even when he's struggling offensively, he's still going to be a great boost on the glass, and he's gotten a lot of rebounds. I think it's been very encouraging, the defensive effort he's put out in every game. The blocks he's made, he's had some spectacular blocks. He's been a great presence as a rim protector. That's all been good. But I do think we were hoping for more, as in we want to see a leap. I think when the Grizzlies fans think about the future and we think about last year's tanking season, we keep thinking, okay, Boozer plus Edey plus Cedric Coward, that's our front court for the future. And a lot of that hopes that Ced is going to make some kind of jump or leap to be like a Jimmy Butler or Kawhi Leonard dream outcome. And that second year leap in Summer League offensively has not been there. The shot hasn't been locked in. He's shooting a terrible percentage, and he's not really beating guys one-on-one. He's turning the ball over a lot when he sort of tries to isolate. So yeah, that part's been a letdown. So I don't know if we're supposed to take any conclusions away from that, other than Summer League shooting doesn't really matter. Actually, it's been proven there's no correlation ever. But I do think, like, I was hoping to see him look like the best guy on the court at times, and to him have, like, these, like, you think about Desmond Bane's big Summer League breakout back in the day. I was hoping to see some 20-point, 25-point, like at the very least be better than Wayne Selden was offensively.
Yeah.
Back in his dominant Summer League. So while he's had a lot of great moments, I think it's natural to feel a little bit let down that he hasn't been locked in offensively.
Yeah. There's some positives and then there's some negatives. I think depending on if you want to be optimistic or not, you can look at it one of two ways. The concern is that usually when players make a big leap, it is in their second season, right? That's when that begins. You don't see leaps later on, and he is a little bit older. He got to the Grizzlies a little bit later as a 4-year college player. And so this is the season you want to see a leap. It doesn't mean that it can't happen just because he didn't play great in Summer League. It absolutely can still happen. But usually, and I know Chris and I have talked about it on the podcast in the past, like Summer League, playing great in Summer League isn't an indicator that you're going to make a huge leap, but playing badly is usually not a good sign. And I wouldn't say he's played badly, but he certainly has not been at his best through these first 3 games in Vegas. But if I'm trying to be optimistic here, this is just a small sample in the summer when the Grizzlies are experimenting with different types of lineups and putting him in different types of positions. And this is a player that, like, in his third, he didn't play Summer League last year because he was hurt. In his third actual NBA game in the regular season, when the Grizzlies were still trying to be competitive, the guy scored 27 points. So, like, he's capable of doing that. Why isn't it happening this summer? I don't know. I think there's a lot of factors at play. Maybe he's just not shooting the ball well. But ultimately, my worry for Cedric Howard not improving still, I think, is low. I think he will improve. And I think it's been good to at least see him leading the team in rebounds, right, in Summer League, because that was his best skill last year as a rookie. Despite everything else that everyone wanted to point out, it was that he was always able to come down with the contested rebounds, especially, early on, right away. That was always his best skill, and you're still seeing that now. So, ultimately my worry isn't very high yet for a player like Cedric Howard, but I think you're right. Maybe we have set the bar too high, right? Maybe we've just counted our chickens before they've hatched here, that Cedric Howard is in for a big leap. Has anyone else impressed you? Who else do you think has played well for the Grizzlies so far in Summer League?
That's a very normal question to ask about Summer League, but I feel unprepared for it, or I'm like, I don't actually, because my snap response is no. Like, no one else has impressed me. A lot of the guys are, of course, guys with NBA experience I've seen before. We've already talked about the ups and downs of Javon Small.
Maybe Omax? What do you think of Omax? Omax,
I will say Brendan Hausen.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know if it's Hausen or Hausen. Don't know.
They said on TV Hausen, so okay. I'm going with that now. And I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry. But in the brief moments he's been allowed to play, he's just banged in his three-pointers, and that of course turns your head. No, I haven't been impressed by Omax at all. I mean, he's had a couple of good scoring games. He's had a couple of horrible scoring games. Yep. He's a fourth-year guy, and so I grade on this curve, and I don't know if it's fair or not, but from all the years of me watching Summer League, fourth-year guys should be able to look great, be clearly the best players on the court, and then get shut down after a few. And he's not clearly one of the best players on the court. He's sort of, for all his speed and size and length, he still seems uncoordinated at times, and like he's sort of in the way, and his hands aren't that great. And maybe some of that is he's just playing out of position on the perimeter all the time. He might be best served as like a super undersized four. So like, I haven't been impressed by him. Taylor Hendricks can't hit the broadside of a barn. I wonder what his game would look like if it wasn't 5 out and he wasn't just launching 3-pointers the whole time. I don't know. Like, I don't think anyone else has impressed me at all. So like, has anyone impressed you?
No,
from their play?
I mean, Javon Small has played well in some games, hasn't been consistent. So I don't know if you can put him in the has impressed category. Yeah. And then the only thing I would say about Omax, just to counterpoint your point, is that he's a deep bench player for this team, right? And so there's a reason he's a fourth-year Summer League guy, not because he was like, this isn't a top draft pick that's just back for a fourth year, and they're like, this isn't Gigi Jackson, right? This is a little bit of a different situation than a player like Gigi, who's played well in NBA games for an extended stretch. I do think it's positive he's shooting 40% from three, because he almost has to, right? And that's been good. So if he's going to play and be impactful in regular season games for the Grizzlies, it's kind of the least you'd want to see from him. So I think he's had moments where he's impressed, but I'm kind of with you on putting anybody into the impressive category when it's only been certain stretches. What if we extended beyond the Grizzlies? You watched a lot of basketball. Is there any player you enjoyed watching the most in Las Vegas?
I will say this year's Summer League has basically seen all of the top guys live up to the hype. Although I feel like there's been a little trail off for Darren Peterson, but like AJ DeBonsa looks amazing. And obviously Cam Boozer has looked great. I don't even care about missing some shots or not scoring that much the last game. Like, Cam Boozer's been awesome. Caleb Wilson's been awesome outside of the free throw line. I mean, really deep cut, like Koa Pete looks really good. Yeah. Braden Burries looks really good from the Bucks. So there's been a lot of the draft guys immediately. And I always come into this not having seen most of these rookies ever played because I don't watch college basketball. So I've been impressed by all those guys. I mean, some of it was seeing how Darren Peterson just destroyed the Grizzlies in Utah and being like, oh, wow, Darren Peterson's amazing. Do the Wizards have regrets? And then seeing AJ DeBonsa, I watched both of his games and was just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Like that guy might be an all-star year one, possibly. The way he can get to the rim, his size, and the way he grifts for fouls to have a baseline of scoring, I was really impressed with him.
It is staggering, though, how when you watch Peterson versus you watch DeBansa, how different it looks to get to, like, 25 points. Because with DeBansa, it looks like he's working extremely hard and he's this, like, workhorse player to get you there. And with Peterson, it looks extremely easy, and yet both of them have kind of come leveled out around the same range, it feels like, in every game. And so it's just, to me, that's something that's been, it's not actually a knock on DeBansa. Like, I think he's looked great, but it's just shocking to me how easy basketball looks for Darren Peterson. That's been one of my takeaways so far watching Summer League. Last couple things before we get out of here. Kareem Lopez, yet to play a game in Summer League for the Grizzlies, is expected to play before the end of Summer League. What are you hoping to see? I mean, I'm assuming most people are going in here with very few expectations as the one guy that came from overseas that probably a lot of people didn't watch a ton of college. People that didn't watch college basketball probably aren't watching international basketball. And if you did watch college basketball, you still didn't see Kareem Lopez. So I imagine there's like very little expectations, but is there anything you hope to see when he gets on the court?
I just want to see that activity that is supposed to be part of his game. I've heard him be praised by Draymond Green and Kevin Garnett. I want to see him outperform, even if it is going to be a small sample size. If he only plays one or two games, I hope he can outperform Omax and Taylor Hendricks and make me wonder if he should be in the rotation from the start. But yeah, I just want to see him get out there, just see what he's got and get a first impression of what his game is like.
Yeah, it's at some point he will play, and I will have something out on him so you can go look at the Daily Memphian. Just fascinating backgrounds. I didn't know anything about basketball in Mexico prior to talking to him, which I've done, a couple times since the draft. And apparently, like, in this northern part of Mexico where he's from, basketball is like a really growing sport, and it's become extremely popular, which I was not familiar with. I did go back and watch the one game he played against Cam Boozer prior to making it to the NBA. It was Mexico versus the United States in some FIBA tournament. I think the United States won by like 70 points. But Kareem Lopez was the only player on Mexico that could do anything. It was just like, all right, let's give this guy the ball and see what he can do. So he's definitely got a lot of experience. He's got that professional overseas experience. And to leave home at 14, I don't know what you were doing at 14 years old, Keith, but I'm pretty sure when I was 14, I was just going into high school, and I think my mom was still doing my laundry, and I, was wondering if I was going to make the high school baseball team or not. This guy was playing professional basketball in Spain, so it's a pretty incredible story to hear him talk about it. It's pretty cool. So whenever that comes out, be on the lookout for that. I want to see him. I want to see the same thing. I want to see him be competitive in these games. I kind of want to see him use these physical tools that the Grizzlies made a bet on. This is like throw your weight around, play like you're 6'8", because everybody's searching for those big wings. I don't think anyone is expecting him to be some like sharpshooter from the 3-point line right now. Like, that's going to take some time and some development. And I think he is a little bit more of a project than some of the other players on the roster, maybe even more so than a Richie Saunders, who they took in the second round. So this is a chance to get off to a good start, take a few baby steps. But the one thing that should translate right away is the physicality and the physical tools that he has. So I'm with you. I want to see some activity. I want to see him use his body weight and grab a few rebounds in however many games he plays. If it's one, if it's two, that's what I would like to see. All right, couple things before we get out of here. We always do There's More to Life Than Basketball, Keith. What's going on in your life right now? Have you seen any movies? Have you watched any shows? Have you cooked anything at home? I know you've been on the road. What's going on in your life right now?
Oh, I'm happy to fill the Chris Harrington role of recommending some movies. I've been watching basically the last, maybe going back to last summer, I've been just like watching a lot of really old movies and getting into, I don't know, some of these like all-time great movies that I've never seen before. So I just, for the first time, watched Paths of Glory, watched it on a plane the way Stanley Kubrick intended, watched it on the flight out to Las Vegas. It was tremendous. I watched Lifeboat, an old Alfred Hitchcock movie from 1940s that was also, I thought, really good, really fun. I've been going through also like on Prime Video, where I'm now watching Summer League, and I watched the Grizzlies last year, and perhaps we'll watch them there next year. Who knows? They have a ton of old MGM because they own MGM catalog, just a ton of old movies there. Been watching a lot of Burt Lancaster movies. So strong recommendation to all the people at home who want to catch up on some old movies. It's, they're so good. It's one of those things where you watch like famous movies. You're like, yeah, that movie's famous for a reason. It was great.
So, okay. You're less likely to crush me.
Yeah.
I just have a hard time watching a movie from the 1940s. I don't know if it's
a lot of people do. I do think there's a learning curve. Like, and I think I passed it, where now it like, at one point I was like, okay, this is kind of slow. I would say, there's this movie from, I think it's the 50s, Sweet Smell of Success.
Okay.
That is like, it's sort of like Mad Men. Like Mad Men ripped it off. And I think that's a good entryway because like it shows you like New York City in the 50s, which on its own is just kind of amazing. And it's all these fast talking guys who are horrible people. It's like anti-hero stuff, like before that became just the norm in every show. I think that like me, good entry point. Also, turn the subtitles on. I think that could help. Just like if you read it, and sometimes the dialogue, it's real fast talking slang you're not familiar with. And then when you read it, you're like, oh, that's kind of a funny phrase. I hadn't thought of that phrase. So maybe try the subtitles.
Okay. Sweet Smell of Success. Is that what you said?
I hope I nailed it right. Or I would say the Killing is a very short crime caper, sort of like Ocean's 11, that is like, it's like thrilling. I think it's thrilling to anybody. It's about trying to rob a racetrack. And so it's like all these low-level mobsters trying to pull off a heist. So I think that's like a thrilling 1950s movie that anybody would like, called The Killing.
All right, I'll check into both of those. I am going to go see The Odyssey on Friday, which I'm excited about, which is a 2026 movie. But I am excited about that. I also wanted to give a shout out to Steph Allen, who works on the Grizzlies video crew. You probably know Michael Blevins because he's more active on social media. The Grizzlies video crew was excellent, by the way. The Tony Allen doc was great. Marc Gasol doc was great. The in-arena stuff is awesome. And Steph, I believe, shot some of the scenes for the new Netflix show Quarterback. I know you're a Titans fan, Keith, and I think Steph shot some of the Cam Ward stuff in that. So shout out to him. I've watched the first couple episodes of that. Great show. If you're trying to get back into football mode once we exit Summer League, it's a great show to do so. So I wanted to give a shout out to him. Other than that, I'm still chefing up at home. Natalie follows my cooking page. I have a cooking page now that I've been posting on. I made last night a chicken caprese type of deal with some pesto on it, and so I've become quite the chef at home. And so I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying that now that I'm back from Summer League after eating bad food for essentially 9 straight days. So this is good. It's good for me to get something that's relatively healthy into my system now. So before we sign off, just wanted to say our condolences to DeMichael Cole, who is my counterpart on the beat, who lost his mother last week, or earlier this week, sorry. Great guy. We've become close friends, and when you do this job, you end up on the road a lot, at the arena a lot, and I think I spend just as much time with DeMichael as I do my own family. So I just wanted to say our condolences from the pod to him, and we hope his family is doing okay, and our thoughts are with them. That will do it for us. That will do it for me and for Keith. Until next time, for Drew and Keith, we're out of here.